21 Marcus Aurelius Stoic quotes reflected upon. I've been a huge fan of Stoic philosophy for many years, and the fundamental reason why is because on the journey to creating success or bringing forth what you desire, whether it be entrepreneurial success or whatever area of your life, you are met with what we call obstacles or certain ways of looking at the different people, environment, circumstance, and information that presents itself in which we may interpret them as obstacles. Stoic philosophy helps us switch the perspectives around and bring us to a level of inner world cause-based reflection on the outer world effect-based reality. This is otherwise known as accurate thinking. It is the harmony between the inner and the outer. We're going to discuss some quotes from that perspective. Stoicism also helps us accept the things that we know how to change and to accept the things that perhaps right now we don't know how to change, so that we can realize that there are different perspectives on whatever experience that we are having, and to see the experience that we are having as contribution and in harmony with what we are looking to live, which is in alignment with who we really are, otherwise known as the true self. It's the recognition that everything is and isn't at the same time, and we create meaning to whatever experience that we are having, and we have the power to change the meaning. We're also going to discuss from the perspective of letting go of fear, doubt, and indecision, which is something that we may experience on the journey to, or life journey, seeing the journey and the destination as one. Even though you might have a goal and you'll realize your goal, you also experience the journey, which can be riddled with fear, doubt, and indecision, and we have the power to release from certain kinds of beliefs and assumptions within by understanding and working with Stoic philosophy to transcend, to evolve the meaning of fear, doubt, and indecision, and bring ourselves to a place of acceptance and understanding. And this is all found based on my fourth point, listening to yourself. It is you that is interpreting this entire experience, this entire reality. And you're interpreting it from the perspective of your true self, who you were destined to be. Your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, and your life experience is always going to be reflected upon your inner world interpretation between where you are right now, where you want to be, and the journey that you are experiencing. This is why it's important to go within ourselves, and we'll talk about this, and connect with our inner voice or intuition. Because as these quotes were reflected upon by Marcus Aurelius, we have the power to also reflect upon them and align them with the accurate meaning, accurate thinking between where we are right now and the different experiences that we have on the journey to bring forth what we desire or experience what we desire to create from a place of accurate understanding how things are related based on the meaning within. He says, our life is what our thoughts make of it. So our entire existence can be summed up with the philosophy that our life really is what our thoughts make of it. It's how we think and how we believe about the different experiences that we have, what we desire to create, and the success or lack thereof it, that determines the quality and the spirit of our life. He says, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Very important. Very little is needed to make a happy life. Much of what we believe that creates a happy life is based on suggestions that we have interpreted from the outer world to assume that if we identify with those attributes, those certain characteristics, perhaps a personality or material objects, that we are going to experience happiness as a result of the attainment of those attributes. If we end up creating the material wealth, but the source of the happiness is not found within, as in happiness with it, rather than I will get it and be happy, we found ourselves again on the journey for acquiring something else. When we reflect that this is actually the case, we begin to connect with ourselves and say, what really makes us happy in our life? What are the experiences? What are the circumstances? What are the services that we do, the way of living that really bring us a high degree of happiness? And what we'll realize is that based on that, there was ways of thinking that we have identified with that weren't necessarily our own ways of thinking. And so we begin to release from it. And then we discover our own ways of thinking and bring it back to what I call the divine center. Through meditation, through cause and effect reflection, and a commitment to the performance of doing everything that you do every single day with commitment, quality, and quantity to the best of your ability, you find a relationship between your inner and outer world. Your inner world, which is the world of creation, and the outer world, which is the world of nature. You find a relationship, harmony, accuracy. He says, you have the power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. So by realizing that you have power over your mind, you change your interpretation of the events, the outside of events, and find the power. You find the strength and the unique perspective and the unique way of looking at whatever is being experienced in the outer world and seeing it in a way that it contributes to what you desire to create, as well as your service to others. For example, let's say you are starting a business, and on the journey to the realization or the fulfillment of the outcome of the successful business, you are met with inner resistance, and the inner resistance presents itself on your inability to see a project all the way to completion. Instead, you find yourself distracted and your mind wandering and going into a different direction. Your behaviors then reflect it. You get distracted. When you realize that the power is found in directing your mind to something specific, you find yourself becoming excited and joyous about seeing the task all the way to completion. Through the repetition of doing this again and again and again, you will find happiness in seeing the task all the way till completion. This will bring forth a higher level of consistency and congruence and a greater ability to understand based on the reflection on what you can optimize and evolve as far as beliefs within, skills, capabilities to further produce success. In other words, you have now overcome this aspect within yourself in which you assumed you did not have a high level of consistency, changed a belief within yourself where now you experience a high level of consistency. And as a result, you find more joy and happiness in your life because your self-confidence goes up. It's happening in the world within. Now we're talking about harmony between the world within and the outer world. As you experience a higher degree of self-confidence within yourself in the outer world, you have a higher degree of self-confidence as you experience the outer world, as well as, and as a result of, you realize that the obstacles are no longer the obstacles, more so each day, but rather elements, resources, and opportunities that you can work with, that you can harmonize with, the resources that are available in some shape or form to create what you desire. For example, when you realize that you now see projects all the way till completion, you now find yourself in the face of certain opportunities that never presented themselves before. But those opportunities are ones that require somebody to have a deep level of presence and commitment and seeing a project all the way to completion. that particular opportunity is presented to you by a business partner, or you see it in the marketplace. And because you know that you can take projects all the way to completion through your consistency, you now feel confident that you can take on that project. And perhaps there's many that won't take on that project because they're not willing to commit to that project for a year, 2 years, 5 years, because that's what's required to see it all the way to completion and receive the rewards as a result. He says, when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. Now, he's talking about the journey here. The journey is as valuable as the destination. A lot of times we can get caught up with the idea of the fulfillment of our goal and fail to realize all the happiness always was, is, and ever will be within a state of mind. And that is deep presence in this moment right here. And in this moment right here, you have the power to change your thoughts. You have the power to affirm certain thoughts. You have the power to consume certain kinds of information that affirms certain kinds of thoughts. And what this does is this improves the quality of your life experience to the realization of the destination, as well as you experience what we call here, as he refers to it, as quality of your thoughts. And he says, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Now, the quality of our thoughts is revealed through the consistency. Picking a goal and seeing it all the way to completion, finding joy in the journey. The ability to stay committed to a task, a project, a morning routine, a set predetermined workday. The ability to find joy in that journey is going to stimulate accuracy, accurate thinking, and bring you into a greater degree of alignment and harmony between your inner world and the outer world. There's your day-to-day experiences, that which you experience every single day, which involve interactions with people, environment, circumstance, and information, which involve cultivating certain capabilities and skills, which involve partaking in certain behaviors and relating in certain environments and evolving certain aspects within the self that we call the self-image and the identity. And if we enjoy this journey, which starts at a framework in the beginning, by waking up and affirming what a privilege it is to be alive, to think and to enjoy and to love life, we'll find ourselves automatically in that state of mind, and then all we have to do is maintain it throughout the day. And then, as a result, through our reflections at the end of the day, through journaling, which is a very stoic thing to do, to reflect upon the journey of the day, at the end of the day, and the end of the week, you will be able to identify certain quality thoughts and principles that will stick with you for your entire life. A good book to read is Principles by Ray Dalio, and I've done a discussion on it. I'll put a link in the description. The idea is we're creating principles on how to live our life. And we're adhering to these principles because this is the philosophy of how we navigate existence. This is the individualized, accurate thinking between the outer world relationship, your true self, which is realized upon the journey through cause and effect reflection, and being in harmony by being your inner true self, more so each day, and having it reflect as your experiences as a result of the interpretations of whatever shows up in the outer world. And all of this is evaluated through your thinking. You have the power to look at your thinking in the moment, as well as at the end of the day, and regularly, to bring yourself to higher degrees of accuracy in thinking, so that you are relatable between the inner world and the outer world. If there's a disconnect, then you're going to experience it. You're going to call it stress. It is really a form of lack of acceptance. Which brings us to our next point. Acceptance of what is and isn't at the same time. He says, I've often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. See, our goal of the journey is to realize the true self. Again, a very important Stoic principle is to recognize that there is a divine pattern, and everything happens, and you're part of it. And the meaning you associate to what happens determines the quality and the spirit of your life. And as a result of it, we observe our relationships with others to reflect the relationship with ourselves. People represent who we are. The moods, the assumptions within ourselves is experienced, externalized as the reflection through the assumptions and moods externalized, experienced as theater with other people. Now, we want to bring forth the end result. We bring ourselves into a higher degree of self-confidence and self-esteem so that we can move forward to create what we desire to bring forth, the heart desire, which is based on the true self. However, we tend to carry within ourselves lowered opinions of who we really are and our capability. And at the same time, we admire those attributes in another person when they have them, knowing that the other people who present themselves in our experience are inspiring us and encouraging those attributes within us can be very powerful, because then what happens is we start to listen to ourselves even more so. Rather than looking at the opinions of the outer worlds as in control of you, you figure out how to harmonize with the opinions of the outer world. You understand how each opinion shared with you reveals about yourself based on your emotional reactivity to it, level of understanding of it, and level of ability to integrate it if it is valid and accurate to integrate in relation with what you desire to create. But one of the things we want to do is we want to further value our own opinion and see it as harmony and relatable to the opinions of others, more so each day, as a level playing field of opinions, and we can choose the opinion that is most in alignment. That way, the opinion allows us to form perspective on what is presented to us. If everything isn't at the same time, the statement really means that no matter what you look at, you can have various opinions on that particular information, the circumstance, the environment, and the accurate meaning is found within. And this accurate meaning is actually in the spirit of harmony with yourself, others, and reality. If the meaning is one of conflict, then you identify with it and you accept the effects or the consequences as a result of that particular identification. So we choose accordingly through this accurate cause and effect reflection. Whenever you're in doubt to find fault in someone, ask yourself the following questions. What fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I'm about to criticize? Much of this philosophy, if not all of the philosophy of Stoicism, is absolute, full responsibility for your life. Complete responsibility. And as a result of that, we are constantly on the journey evaluating where we are interpreting people, environment, circumstance, and information from a disempowering perspective rather than an empowering perspective. And if we choose to, and we choose to because it brings us inner joy, bring us into a higher degree of alignment between our inner world and our outer world through acceptance, we find the accurate meaning that resembles understanding. You understand why it exists in relation to who they are and their experience in reality, in relation to who you are and your experience in reality, and in relation to the collective's reality, in which you then have a power to choose the accurate action that moves forward accordingly. The first rule is to keep an untroubled spirit. The second is to look at things in the face and know them for what they are. So this is never done from a place of denial. It's always done from a place of understanding. We're accurately accessing and understanding the relationship of the attribute or the aspect of what is at the same time, recognizing that to another person it may be not, as in it isn't. For example, say a person sees an obstacle. This is a very common discussion in the Stoic community, discussing about the topic of obstacles. The obstacle, as discussed in the book Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, which I've done a discussion on, I'll put a link in the description, actually does reveal the way. How so? Based on our interpretation from within on that particular circumstance or whatever presents itself as an obstacle. We can find a way to overcome it. We can find a way to befriend it and work with it. Or we have an ability to let it go, as in move around the obstacle. This is to keep an untroubled spirit, because you're not troubled by the obstacle. And because you have the ability to say, one person sees it as an obstacle, but I choose to see it as an opportunity. And just stimulating with your mind that particular perspective, you do what he says right here. He says you receive without conceit and you release without struggle. Very important. Let's reflect upon that. You receive without conceit, release without struggle. You let go of concepts of ego that causes a certain identification, and you're able to see it for what it actually is. And you receive the benefit without certain blind spots. Or if you have to let go of that element in which you don't see a foreseeable way to work with that element, then you let it go, you accept it, and you release it without struggle. Now, this is a practice. This requires mindfulness. This requires commitment. Integrating these Stoic philosophies into day-to-day life are very beneficial, but they can be, keyword is can be, challenging if we're not willing to change our philosophy around within, let go of certain aspects of our philosophy that are no longer in alignment with creating this harmony with the inner world and the outer world, as well as accepting that things can be one way or another, and you have the power within to choose. This allows us to then let go of fear, doubt, and indecision, which can show up in the journey. What are you really doing? You're building a higher degree of ability of discernment within. You're trusting your own inner voice and your experiences from your past. You're engaging yourself in more experiences so you can reference these experiences. And a lot of this happens automatically via our intuition. And in the process, you become more decisive. If something shows up, you understand that you could either change the way you look at what shows up, you can accept it for the way it is, in part or in whole, or change it in part or in whole, or you can let it go. And you know the answer within. And you start to live more like this, which is what we call autotelic. A lot of times you'll find you'll have instant ability to be decisive as a result of integrating these principles and these elements from Stoic philosophy, as well as our other discussions, because you have tapped into a greater ability to work with the idea that you already know where you're going, which is your true self, which is what we call the heart desire, and we're purifying the mind to bring in alignment, heart and mind relationship. He says if you're distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. So we give our power away, or we misinterpret our power from within, whatever way you want to look at it, to estimate inaccurately that the thing in the outer world can cause us pain, and we make it the source of the pain. And as a result, we create distress, frustration, stagnation, further leaving ourselves open to thoughts of fear, doubt, and indecision. and thus making our journey more convoluted and complex unnecessarily than it has to be. Because, as stated, very little is needed to make a happy life. And so much of what we add onto our life, unnecessary complexity, is the result of unnecessary distressing ourselves by the external, which include the opinions that are not in alignment with the true self. Let's go a little deeper into this. He says, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Golden rule. Do unto others as you wish done unto yourself. If it is not right, do not do it. By doing it, you create unnecessary complexity and convolution. And you know what's true. And this can save us a lot of hassle, because as a result of speaking the truth, that what we firmly believe to be true, that is based on results, we only speak the words that are generated from within as a result of our subconscious expression of experience that has the ability to produce results, whatever the results may be, which includes sharing information in a way that actually facilitates the behavioral change and the transformation in others, spoken from experience. If you are pained by external things, it is not that they disturb you, but your own judgment of them. And it is your power to wipe out that judgment now. Very important. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now, right in this moment. This is where the power is. All that exists is this moment, has always existed this moment. The power is by changing the state of mind. Once we change the state of mind, by choosing to see the experiences with people, environment, circumstance, and information that presents itself from a place of gratitude, acceptance, and love, or we do the thing we know we have to do, find flow in it, then we change the state of mind, and we'll find ourselves releasing from the judgment. This is a simple exercise that I do. If I find myself in any kind of fear, doubt, and indecision, I ask myself, what is the one thing that I can do right now that will bring me back into flow? And I do that thing, and then I find myself in the ideal state of mind. He says, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one. One of the biggest and most resonating aspects of the Stoic philosophy is the idea that being the person is where the power is. And all the power is found through the being and the authentic expression of the being. As in, being and doing what is right now. You have the power right now. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves identifying in our mind, overthinking, not in harmony between the inner and outer world, and thus stuck in our head, dwelling in fear, doubt, and indecision. Not practicing letting go by changing the meaning within. He says humans have come into being for the sake of each other. So either teach them or learn to bear them. In other words, accept people for who they are, or share with them, instruct, inspire, teach. But don't force the teaching. Express the teaching through the being. That is the most powerful way to teach, by living the philosophy. It is through living the philosophy that the words flow from you. The being within expresses through you. Because a thing seems difficult for you, do not think it impossible for anyone to accomplish. This is very important. Everybody has their own true self, and they are all in the journey of realizing and living their true self. What we may consider as impossible is completely possible for another person because their true self will bring it forth. Thus, we practice humility and understanding. If something feels difficult for us, we do not put the disempowering programming on another person and say it's difficult. When you're in the presence of another person and they want to accomplish something, they see it as possible, encourage them, and live by it, because you do unto others what you do unto yourself, as stated. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Now this brings us to our final point here, which is listening to the inner voice of intuition. The key to this, as he states here, is confine yourself to the present. Bring yourself back to the present moment. Release and let go of fear, doubt, and indecision. Accept what is right now, or what isn't. Recognize that everything is and isn't at the same time. And bring yourself in alignment or in harmony between the inner and outer world on the bridge called the eternal now, this now. He says the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Therefore, guard accordingly and take care that you entertain no notions unsuitable to virtue and reasonable nature. Very important. Entertain no notions unsuitable to virtue and reasonable nature. We are aligning the laws of creation, inner world, with the laws of nature, outer world, as ourselves, the being within, the true self. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. This is why it's very important to dedicate time for meditations, for reflection, to release yourself from the noise of the outer world and bring yourself back to what we call the divine center. This is where you find your true self, the inner voice conversation, the accurate thinking, the meditations and reflections that will create and bring forth your result via the philosophy you identify within. This is the exact process that he did, which is another reason why I love Stoic philosophy, because it really causes us to take full responsibility and go within. Complete 100% responsibility by going within. He says every living organism is fulfilled when it follows the right path for its own nature. You have your true self. It is who you are, because it is your nature. Otherwise, you will not find happiness. And what you'll find is that by following your true path, you become the source of inspiration for others to also discover this true self and live this true path. And more people will be in harmony because the true paths are actually in alignment with all. We are all individual expressions of the same mind. The depths of the being is the inner voice, which is the same voice, which is found through connecting back and retreating into your own soul for reflection. It's important to live in this outer world and experience it and reflect back on your experiences with this outer world via your inner world and bring them into congruence. Then you understand this idea and concept of true self and the harmony with the true selves of others a lot more deeply. And what you'll also find is that on the journey you will release of disempowering programming and attributes of identification within yourself that creates certain kinds of disharmony with yourself and others in relation to your vision on the journey to the realization of your vision, as well as in relationship with people, environment, circumstance, and information, thus allowing you to see more so accurately how the obstacle is actually an opportunity. For it is in your power to retire into yourself whenever you choose. No matter where you are, you have the power to retire into yourself, the depths of your being, the true self, and identify the accurate meaning. Meditation, either in the passive form, which is traditional meditation, or in the active form, which is the performance and duty of seeing every task till completion from a place of flow, maintaining that level of consistency. We call this self-discipline. However, self-discipline and consistency is an authentic and automatic, autotelic expression of a person that listens and honors their inner voice and connection with the true self to find the individualized pathway to the realization of the vision, which is also riddled with hunches, inspirations, insights, and perspectives that become the philosophy, the beliefs and assumptions that become integrated in what we call the self-image, the identity. And all of this is found by bringing ourselves back to this present moment right now, realizing that we have the power to change. Very important in relation to Stoic philosophy, the meaning that we give to whatever shows up, bringing it into alignment with accurate meaning, or accept it the way it is. The way it is, accept it fully, in part or in whole, or change it, let it go, move away from it. Again, as he states here, for it is in your power to retire into yourself whenever you choose. What do? Do you let go of it? Do you accept it the way it is? Or do you change how you look at it? The answer is found within, in the depths of your being. And I'm not speaking of the egotistical voice from past programming. I'm speaking from a deeper connection, inner voice, which transcends that other programming which may appear called the ego voice. That is not what we're referring to when we're referring to inner voice. Where do you find this inner voice? By living life more so each day through active and passive meditation. Stoic philosophy has been very beneficial. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to integrate everything. That's not what it implies. But what brings you into a higher degree of power and responsibility within. As he states here in conclusion, dig within. Within is the wellspring of good, and it is always ready to bubble up if you just dig. All the answers are found within. If you want to copy this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.